how do I build consistency through the winter so that when I come out next year, I'm playing great and I have stock shots that are just like this? Like, how do I make it so that when I'm hitting balls, I'm hitting the same shot over and over and over again? And that's really, really what we're after, right? And what his answer to building a stock shot just like this was, Kyle, you need to practice by mechanics and play by feel. All right, so it's cold outside. And the question is now that it's cold, is it the off season? It's not the off season. This is actually called the development season. So in the development season, what do you do to actually develop? If you could ask like the 3 best players of all time, right? Or 3 really good players. Let's say you got Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and let's say Rory McIlroy. And you were gonna say, hey guys, what would you do to actually get better in the winter? What would their answers be? In this series, we're gonna tackle the exact answers that they would give so that you have a roadmap to what you need to do to actually get better during this development season. So those are the questions. Now let's get to the answers. So when I was asking Mr. Nicklaus how to get good, I was actually on this road headed to his house to ask him, right? It was 10 o'clock, Friday of the Memorial Tournament. I had just graduated from playing in college at Seton Hall University. And I went there and I asked him, and the answer he said was, he goes, Kyle, you need to develop a stock shot, like a reliable ball flight. Now, the truth is, like, the golf room is amazing. I would love to invite you out to Columbus, Ohio to see the golf room, but you're probably not hitting balls on a fancy smancy TrackMan. You're probably like, okay, Kyle, like I got like a net that I can hit at, or like I can just make some swings in my living room. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go to my net return at my house, and I'm gonna show you how I work on building a stock shot, just like Mr. Nicklaus told me, in the comfort of my own home, when like there's no leaves on the trees, it's getting cold, so that we can play better in the spring. Got my tape, my clubs, and my stick. That's all you need for stock shots. But I probably have to go to the house. I think I need to help my wife unload the groceries first. All right, so now we're at my house. This is like MTV Cribs golf style.
This is my exotic garage Focus.
At my casa. So here we are, and we know that we need to build a stock shot, which is the same thing that Jack Nicklaus told me right down the street back in the day. So the question is when you have a net like this and it's cold, the leaves are falling, the snow is about to hit, I think it's actually supposed to snow this weekend, how do you go about practicing? Well, the first thing that we know is that we need a ball that starts right, curves left, and doesn't over-curve the line. Now I'm gonna talk about why that's important here in a second, but I wanna show you how to actually build this. So what we're gonna do is, in front of us, we need to attach what is a proper start line for a shot. So I'm gonna put a stick with a noodle out in front of me, right? Then I'm gonna have another one just to the right, right? Because if you remember back at the golf room, we had a ball that was starting right, curving left, and not over curving the line. So now I've kind of created a little tunnel to where now I can make sure that my ball is starting on the right angle. And I make sure that when I'm hitting, right, and maybe I'll take another alignment stick and I'll set it down the target line so that I'm aligned correctly, right? Because alignment is like ridiculously important, which we've covered in other videos. But what I'm gonna do now is when I'm setting up, I'm hitting, and I'm trying to get this ball to fire right through that slot. And if I'm doing that, that's making sure that the club face is starting correctly. But let's say you don't have some noodles, you don't have a sticks, but you do have some painter's tape, right? And sometimes when you're doing that, right, you're hitting and you're not really sure if it went through. So we want to have something to where when we're hitting it, it almost gives us like an audible noise that something's doing. So let me set this up and show you how you would also set up the zone game, just like Jack Nicklaus told me, so that you can build a stock shot. Okay. So now what you've seen is now I have this tape line, which basically is going to illustrate where the ball starts. Now when the ball hits the spot, you're gonna hear it like smack, like almost like a 5-star, right? Now, the one thing to know is that when we're hitting balls, 75% of where the ball starts is where the face angle is aimed. So many players, like if they come into the golf room and they're like, hey, I want to get better. And I go, yeah, you need to learn how to control their face. And they're like, I need to learn, or they say, I need to learn how to control the face. What they're essentially saying is, I need to learn how to be on the PGA Tour. Because if you can control the club face, you could be on the PGA Tour. And the guys who can control the face the best, they hit it the best. So now, with the tape inside of our net return here, we are giving basically audible feedback to where now when I'm hitting balls, okay, first and foremost, how epic is this candy cane? It's so good. That's mine, right? Shows how good I can draw. But aside from my candy cane, you know what's gonna be really good is the practice plan that I build for you right here at the golf room. When I enter you into a drawing, all you have to do is go to thegolfroom.com/holiday. But for us to pull a number, we need over 50,000 subscribers by Christmas, and then you get to enter into over $10,000 in drawings. So be sure to like, subscribe, send this to a friend, and then head to the website, thegolfroom.com/holiday, enter in the drawing, and then we're gonna invite you to come hang out with me for 2 days right here in Columbus. I can make sure if I can hit this thing, it's going to give a smack on the tape that's going to tell me whether or not I did it correctly. And then the other question becomes of, well, what about if you need to worry about the club path and all that stuff? And that's almost going to go into the Tiger answer and the Rory answer, which we'll get to in the next episode. But this is a great way of practicing so that when you're hitting balls, you can actually tell where the ball is hitting and if you're hitting it straight. I think that's the hardest part with a net, is that you're not sure like what the ball flight is, but I have some tricks through this series to teach you on how you can manage the club path, manage the face angle, and manage your attack angle, which are like the 3 main things that you need to hit a golf ball with a stock shot just like Jack Nicklaus. But if we go back in time and we go back to when I was standing just down the street meeting with Mr. Nicklaus here in Dublin, Ohio, and I was like, hey, what do I need to do? And he's like, you need to have a stock shot and practice by mechanics and play by feel. Then I went home and I was like, well, what are all tour players doing? Because that's the one thing I want to challenge you with, right? Is it's one thing for you to, let's say, buy into what I'm saying, but I don't want to have to convince you. I want to just have you basically go through what all tour models are doing, and then let's just copy those, right? There's a famous saying by one of my guys that I like to listen to. His name's Tony Robbins, and he says, whoever, you can always tell who the pioneers are because they're the ones with arrows in their backs. So we don't need to like reinvent the wheel of how to hit a stock shot. Let's just copy, quite frankly, what everyone is doing because we know that that works and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? It's just physics and geometry, and that's the way we're going to build this consistent shot. So let's go in and look at actually what the tour players are doing and see if they're actually doing what Mr. Nicklaus said so that you guys can be fully convinced that the first thing we need to do when it's cold and like we're wearing sweaters is building this stock shot, because now we can maximize our time when we're out here. Like this is where me and my son come after dinner. We'll come out here and hit balls, or on a Sunday in between like halftime breaks of the Seahawks game or the Buckeyes game. And now we're really maximizing our time out here, and that's what I want to help you to do, is to maximize your time during the winter. Okay, so if we just start with what Jack Nicklaus said, right? Jack Nicklaus, best of all time, and right here you can see in this article, he is saying that you need to have a stock shot, and he says this way before he says it to me. He says the toughest shot in golf is that of a perfectly straight one. So Jack Nicklaus is saying that everyone curves it. Then if you go to Jordan Spieth, right after he wins the FedEx Cup, right? The year-long tournament series, he says, I didn't feel comfortable striking the ball whatsoever today or this week. I didn't have a go-to shot. That is called a stock shot. I didn't have a go-to shot. It was amazing that we competed with the way that I felt over the ball. So he's here saying that if he is competing well and he is under control of his golf ball, he has that stock shot, and that's what he's wanting, right? Ben Hogan, right? Best ball striker of all time. He says that you only hit a straight ball by accident. The golf ball is going to move right and left every time you hit it, so you better make sure that you know which way it's going to move. Jonathan Bird, who led the PGA Tour in ball striking one year. He says, I try to hit a stock draw with my club path and my face open to the target line. Having a stock shot keeps things simple in my decision making and makes it so I have a consistent path. right? A stock shot helps me have a go-to shot under any pressure situation. You can see that these players, all of these players are hitting stock shots. They're all hitting balls that start one way, curve back towards the flag, and never over curve the line. So it's not just like me and Mr. Nicklaus, but it's like the best of all time. Here's Jason Duffner, right? You're going to see how he's going to be hitting a ball that starts right, curves left. It does kind of over curve the line because he is a human being, but he hits it to like 3 feet, so that's going to work out. I think we could probably make that one. And then you got Hideki Matsuyama, Colin Morikawa. They're all starting it right. And that's why when you see golf and you see like the little worm cams when they're down by the ball, you see the ball and you're like, oh my gosh, that dude just hit it into the grandstands and it looks like it starts a mile right. And then it's like, what? He just hit it next to the flag. That is why. It's because all of these tour players are hitting stock shots. And if you want to shoot lower scores and you want to build your game this winter, the first overarching concept that we need to have you understand is that you need to have a stock shot. And if you have a stock shot, you will lead to shooting lower scores. It is like A plus B equals C. And if you have that, now you're on your way to building your game through the winter and shooting lower scores.